Hello, my friends, and welcome to episode 6 of the answer video at long last. Alright, this episode is brought to you by Wawa Lattes. I want my royalty check, please. Or endorsement check, or whatever it is. Anyway, we have finished all the answers on the original video, and we're going to be moving on to the questions that were asked on the previous answers videos, except I accidentally skipped over one person's questions last time, so I went to rectify that by going back to the question video and answering those questions before we move on. So we are going to start with Mize1Mize, who has a couple questions. First question, when do you do the big naming part of your City Skyline series? I left a few names in video 4 of that series. I actually did a big naming in episode, I think it was 29. It was something like that. Although I didn't use all the names, and it's not the only naming video I'm going to have. So it's probably worth it to suggest those names again. And maybe I'll use them. I also want to... I don't know if you were the guy who suggested like 30 names or not, if that was you, but it's a little bit too many. I mean, I'm perfectly fine with multiple suggestions coming from one person, but like, don't go that nuts, you know? Just pick a few that you like the most, and I'll be much more likely to use those. But yeah, there will be another naming stuff episode in the future. I mean, there's so many streets, there's no reason not to. Question 2, can you make a compilation of your videos? What do you mean, like a greatest hits or something like that? I guess it could be an interesting thing to do like a top 10 Bone Canoe videos or possibly top 10 series. I thought about doing something like that, ranking the absolute best videos or series based on my personal interest, but I might as well ask the question of you, viewers out there, what do you think my best video and or series is, in your personal opinion? I'm just curious what the response to that would be. But yeah, maybe I will make a top 10 countdown or something like that. Next question, can you play more Civ 5? I'd actually love to play more Civ 5. My current Civ 3 Let's Play is probably forfeit, and I am going to be starting a new Civ Let's Play of one variety or another, but I'm not so sure whether I'm going to do a third shot at Civ 3 on this difficulty to see if I can do it, or if I want to play a Civ 5 game. What I'll probably do is when I get close to that date, I'll put it up to a vote, and whichever of the two wins that vote will be the one that I do. Okay, next question, where do all your fans come from? Well, that's an interesting question because, you know, I do have access to my analytics, and, you know, I check that now and again, and a lot of my fans come from the places you would probably expect. You know, the United States, Canada, the UK, Europe, Australia. It's kind of interesting, like, certain things are more popular in certain places. Like, my Sims content has always been very America-heavy in terms of viewers, but there's a lot more European viewers of my Civ content, and as for SimCity/City Skylines, it's more in the middle. But yeah, there's definitely more Americans interested in my Sim stuff and more Europeans interested in Civilization. Not sure exactly why that would be. I don't really know, but, you know, it's all good to me. But yeah, I've had fans from all over from interesting countries. I've had people tell me they were from China, you know. I think I had a couple South Africans, a few people from the Middle East, some people from India. You know, I think I've seen Southeast Asia a couple times. So, yeah, the fans do come from all over, but I would say definitely the English-speaking countries are a big chunk of it, and the rest of Europe is a slightly smaller chunk. And the final question on your list, if you could make a faith, what would it look like? Well, that's a very interesting and very involved question. I would definitely want to get tithe, because that's +1 gold for every 3 followers. I'm just kidding, that's a Civ 5 joke. But, yeah, if I were to make a faith, well, first of all, I would want to use the building blocks of a faith that already exists in the world, that already has produced great things. And whatever you might think about Christianity, whether you think that there is a God or that there isn't a God, I think it's pretty hard to deny. I know a lot of you are probably going to get mad about this, but it's pretty hard to deny the good things that Christianity has done for the development of Western civilization over the last 2,000 years. And there's a, if any of you doubt me on that, and you are willing to watch a, relatively long interview, just watch any of the interviews that Stefan Molyneux did with Dr. Duke Pesta. Just search up Dr. Duke Pesta, Stefan Molyneux, and just watch any of those videos, and the points that he makes in those videos are some of the strongest evidence for this that I've seen. And he's not the only one who made it. I've had certified agnostics explain this also. And so, yeah, basically, if I were to build a faith, I would start with the general core of Christianity. I think that I would probably emphasize certain things more than others. That in the religion, for example, I wouldn't get hung up on, exactly how old the universe is or any of that stuff. That doesn't matter, really, in a religious sense. I would not get hung up on trying to prove whether or not anything in the Bible is literally true or only metaphorically true, because I don't think it matters. I think it's just the lessons that matter, and I would focus on more of the self-improvement elements of Christianity, and if they weren't necessarily there, since I'm building my own faith, I would add them in. I would add a lot of I'd make self-awareness be a very big part of the religion. I would want to make it very much part of how you live a godly life is to be the best person that you can be. Treat yourself as well as you can, therefore you'll be able to treat others as well as you can. And I think that would be a huge part of my faith. And I think that I would try to incorporate a lot of more spiritual elements. I really like a lot of the elements of sort of the Norse paganism that existed before Christianity came in, and we still have those elements. Christmas is still fundamentally a Norse, Northern European pagan holiday with just sort of Jesus overlaid over top of it, and I would do that a bit more, because I think a lot of those things aren't necessarily as bad as a lot of the fundamentalist Christians will have you believe. And I think those traditions are a good part of, would be a good part to incorporate into my faith. And, would I want to put anything else into this faith? Well, I would put a strong textual message in the Holy Book that says, be wary of anyone who claims to speak for God. Because if God speaks through people, then those people are, humans. They can make mistakes, or they can be deliberately malicious, or they can be somehow, have complexes that make them not entirely, that make them twist things. So I would be careful of anyone who claims to speak for God. So I would emphasize the personal nature of the relationship with the Almighty in my faith. And other than that, I think everything would be good. Most, the core elements of Christianity I would carry over. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I would do. Okay, so that's the end of your questions, and now we are going to click on over. Let's see, what tab was it? Gotta make sure I click on the right tab. Yep, there we go. We already did the questions that were on part 1 of the answer video. Now we're going to part 2. Oh, excuse me. Alright, there's not too many questions on here, but let's see. Actually, none of the... I think there's only one question on here. Is that even a question? Oh yeah, there's a guy reacting to how I mentioned Alaska, and he said he lived in Alaska for many years, and yeah, he says it's pretty great. So yeah, Alaska, pretty awesome. But he does have a question. What is your dream car, and what are some of your favorite car brands? Well, I kind of did answer this back on video 1 or 2 when someone was asking about classic muscle cars, but this is more of a general favorite car kind of thing. But I think the answer would still be the same. I think I'd still drive a Camaro, although, if I could buy any car in the world, would I want to go to like some extreme luxury car? I think it would be fun to have one, but I don't know. I'm not really like a flashy kind of person. So, I mean, look at how I'm dressed. I mean, come on. Am I flashy? Well, maybe a little. But as far as favorite car brands, on principle, I tend to prefer American cars to foreign cars, although I do acknowledge that in many ways a lot of the foreign brands are better. I still have somewhat of a loyalty to Ford, because my first car was a Ford and my most recent car was a Ford, and Ford just seems like America to me. But, Chevy also. I like Chevy. And it's kind of interesting that you asked this, because just recently, as in about 3 weeks ago, I finally got rid of my old Ford Taurus, the car that all the car vlogs were made in. I finally got rid of it. It was nearing the end of its life, and most likely needed much more work to keep going than it was worth. So that car is now resting in its final days at a Morrisville, Pennsylvania junkyard, which I think is how I all want to go, to be honest. But now I'm driving a 2006 Subaru Forester, which, interestingly enough, is the first non-American car I've ever driven. Because, let me think, I had my first Ford Taurus when I was in my teens. I drove my parents' old minivan, which was a Plymouth Voyager after that. Then a Pontiac Grand Am. Not a Trans Am, it wasn't that cool, it was a Grand Am. And then my most recent Ford Taurus, which I had for like 7 years at least. And now I'm driving a Subaru, so it's the first non-American car, but I like it a lot. And I think as far I don't know. Like, I feel like there's like certain connotations that different brands have. Like, we all know, like, the BMW drivers are assholes stereotype. You know, the Mercedes drivers are stuck up and think they're better than you. Toyota drivers are slow and annoying. These are stereotypes that might be true to some extent. I'm not really an expert, but I don't know. Subaru does seem like the least offensive of the foreign brands in terms of stereotypes, as far as I know. But to be honest, like I said before, I'm not really a car guy, so I can't really tell you a lot more detail about my favorite cars and my favorite brands. But I think I'd love to have a Camaro, and if I ever make enough money, that's probably the one I'd buy. I mean, if I made tons of money, like many millions of dollars, who knows? Maybe I'll buy a Hummer. Who knows? Why not? Just to drive the liberals mad, roll up in my Hummer. Not that they make those anymore, but you know, I could buy an old one. But anyway, that's it for those questions. But there were some some questions added to the third answer video. So we're going to see if we can answer these, or at least some of them. So, oh, and by the way, that was, I clicked off of it, didn't I? That was a 055555 who asked that question. I don't think I mentioned his name, so yeah, I'm mentioning his name now. Anyway, for the questions that were asked on the third video, we're starting with Dawson, who asks, question 1, the beard. Yes. The answer to the beard is yes. It's wonderful. I'm not sure what... The question is just the beard. And here's the answer. The answer is yes. It's pretty cool. Watch this. I love doing that. By the way, I want to show you something. My beard is so long that I can actually tuck it behind my ears. It pops out. But I can totally do this. Yeah, look at me. Aren't I cool? But, yeah. I love having a beard this long. It's really, really long. It's like... It pretty much reaches to the top of my head. And let's see. Question 2. Do you think that you would ever branch out of simulator games like in the past? Well, potentially. I mean, the problem with that is historically, whenever I go off the reservation, per se, and do platforming games or, you know, first-person type games, like when I did Sonic or when I did Fallout New Vegas more recently, I tended to almost universally get much fewer views on those videos, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way, and I definitely would like to go off that. I think that a Sonic Mania Let's Play, for instance, would be a possible good idea, especially now that I've played the game a few times. I mean, I'm definitely no expert at it, but I am competent, and I think that would be a good series. A part of me has always wanted to do, or at least attempt, a GTA San Andreas Let's Play, because that's the GTA game that I've played most extensively of all the ones that came out, and it's probably my favorite. I've never played 4 or 5. I've only played 3, Vice City and San Andreas. Those are the only 3 I've played, and of those 3, San Andreas is definitely the one I've played the most of. Those are some options, and of course there's always going to be other options. But yeah, I would be willing to do that, maybe, but, you know, keep in mind, the viewers might not follow. I don't know. If you're a viewer, well, you're a viewer if you're watching this, especially now that I'm almost 20 minutes into this video. If you're a viewer and you're watching this, and you would watch something that was off the reservation like that, go ahead and tell me, because the more people who tell me that they'll watch it, the more likely I am to do it. Okay. Storks Fan 2001 asks, do you think that your old videos are cheesy? And question 2, did you attend any concerts besides U2? Okay, for the first question, I look back on my earliest videos with great affection, especially when you look at the first Civ 3 Let's Play. I was using a $11 Best Buy mic that I had to hold this close to my mouth and press a button and hold it down to talk. It was like this little tiny thing. I might still have it. Actually, see this? This is the mic that I used to record my Civ 3, my first Civ 3, and the first half of my Sims 2 Let's Plays. This I bought for $11 in 2006. You press this button, and I held it like this, trying not to talk directly into it because you get a lot of the puffs. And I would record my stuff like this. I mean, compare that to, this bad boy, which I've been using since last year. I also had a different microphone, but it's like in a drawer somewhere. I don't want to go digging for it just now. But yeah, Grumpy Cat is guarding my old supplies there, as you can see. But yeah, I have a great affection for those, and I still think they hold up today because they really fit in with what Let's Playing was like at the time. And I find my early videos especially are very instructive. Like, if you don't really understand Civ 3 that much, watching my first Let's Play actually is a pretty good teaching tool to get you to understand the game better. And I do kind of like how shy I was, I guess, is a word you could say, and how sort of a little bit reserved I was as compared to even what would come less than a year later. But, I was not used to hearing myself speak, so it was definitely a learning experience. But one of the great things that I learned through doing videos is I learned how to be a better speaker. It might be surprising to you now to learn this, but when I was younger, I used to talk very fast, kind of quiet, and very mumbly. I don't even know if I can imitate how I used to talk if I wanted to. But doing the Bone Canoe channel and doing commentary for literally over 2,000 videos now, I had to learn how to be clear and articulate. And at first it was a lot of effort. But the more I did it, the more it became natural. And now I can just sort of speak like this, I can speak very quickly, very articulately, and everything is clearly understood. That is not something that was true when I was younger, and my speaking ability has improved greatly because of Bone Canoe 86. I mean, I used to be hard to understand at times, especially when I was nervous. I get all mumbly, but now very clear. So I love those old videos. If they're cheesy in a very endearing way. And your other question is, did you attend any concerts besides U2? The reason that he brought up U2, by the way, is because on Sunplant I made a little vlog of going to a U2 concert. But yeah, I've been to a number of concerts. I wouldn't say it like a massive amount, but I've been to quite a few. And most of them were like old bands that were in reunion tours, because that's what I was into at the time, where I went to a lot of concerts. I've seen Genesis. I've seen The Police. I've seen Rush. Who else have I seen? I saw Trans-Siberian Orchestra. That was a blast. Bruce Springsteen, probably still the best concert I've ever been to. I saw Peter Gabriel solo. I saw Steve Hackett solo. Who else? I've seen 2 different Genesis cover bands. You know, I used to be a massive Genesis fan, if you can't tell. I saw Asia. I saw the Asia reunion tour many years ago. I've seen the Moody Blues, which is pretty cool that they're still touring, or at least they were at the time. It's been almost 10 years. I saw The Who. That was pretty cool. And I saw They Might Be Giants in Brooklyn at a very small place. That was really awesome. I saw this obscure Swedish pop guy whose name I'm going to not remember, but it's like Jens Linkman or something like that. My friend randomly had tickets, so we went. So yeah, I've seen a bunch of concerts. The biggest bucket list concerts, I guess you could say, I want to see Pearl Jam. I want to see the Foo Fighters. I'd love to see My Chemical Romance, but they broke up. Who else would I want to see? Oh, there's a lot. There's plenty of concerts I'd love to go to, but it's just I don't really have people to go with, and also they cost money and they take a lot of time and all that, and you have to get the stuff ahead of time and all that. But yeah, Foo Fighters, Pearl Jam, definitely 2 that are very high up. There's obvious ones that I'm missing out on. I'd love to see like the Ozzy tour if he's doing one more. That would be great. Metallica, I'd see Metallica. Who else would I see? Even though they're not my favorite band by any means, I've heard that Coldplay is good live, so I'd be willing to see them. And just any of the good alternative acts that are out there these days. Man, if Alter Bridge is still a thing, are they still together? I don't know. I have to check that out. I'd see them. Or conversely, I would see Miles Kennedy with Slash, if Slash went and toured. I'd see Guns N' Roses in the modern lineup, even though a lot of people really don't like Axl Rose, but I'd still see it. Let's see, who's even going around anymore? But yeah, those are some concerts that I would see, but the ones that I've been to, I listed a good number of those. Of course, there are others that I've been to that aren't popping to mind right now, but I listed probably the majority of the big ones that I went to. So yeah, some good. Oh, I saw King Crimson. I almost forgot about that. That was a long time ago too. So yeah, quite a few things I've been to, but far fewer than I would in theory like. Well, we're getting on 30 minutes. There are still more questions to be answered. So we're going to continue. And I guess, why not? Why not keep the questions open? It could be an endless cycle of each video generates new questions, that those questions generate a new answer video, which generates more questions, but what the hell? At least for now, we're going to keep questions open. So if you have anything else to ask me, feel free to do it. But we'll be back for part 7, where we continue later. So, good night, everybody.